Welcome to Whisperwood Stories. Today I'm going to read a story from Nosleep for you, from user ATMarkov. Let's begin. Nothing's been the same since the crash. I, 38 male, am the janitor for an elementary school just down the road. I love my job. I take pride in making the school look great for the start of every class day, and all the kids smile and wave and call me Mr. Janitor, despite my name tag, as they walk by in their neat little lines. At least, everything was great, until the crash. One morning, 7 sharp as always, I was turning out of my driveway to hurry to the school. But just as I did, a car came speeding over the hill to my left and struck my car. Once I woke up in the hospital, something didn't feel right. It was oddly quiet. A nurse came in shortly after, but she seemed distant. All of her movements seemed slow, as if we were both underwater. She unhooked me from all the machines, which I noticed hadn't been making any noise, and handed me back my clothes. The hospital provided me a bus home, which was nice, since I knew my car would be totaled, and I knew I'd never afford a new one. Once I was home, things felt a bit more cozy. I still felt a little cold and dizzy, but assumed it was whatever painkillers they'd had me on. The next morning, I figured I'd just walk to work. It was only about 10 meters or so up the road, so I'd just have to plan for it. I woke up the next morning, half an hour earlier than usual. In a bit of a daze, I changed into my uniform and set off toward the school. It was strangely quiet, and I finally noticed why. No birds were chirping. The sky was a steely gray, as it had been the day before. Once I was at work, I was scarcely noticed. The kids would occasionally glance up at me, but almost never waved or smiled. For most of the adults, it was as if I wasn't there. Strangely, this felt right. I kept up my mopping until lunchtime and retired to my closet. I glanced at my reflection in the shiny chrome of the boiler and noticed I was unusually pale. I shrugged it off and ate my cold tuna sandwich. The next day was more of the same, but I noticed the cold grayness of the weather seemed to make its way indoors. Walking through the brightly colored hallways, all I saw were dull tones. It was as if the color had been sucked out. On the way to my closet for lunch, I took a painting off the wall of the second grade hallway, which had used to be a bright watercolor of a rose. I hung it up in my closet, irrationally hoping to save away some of the world's color. In doing so, I thought to put 2 fingers to my wrist and checked my pulse. Nothing. I tried again. No beat. I tried my throat. Nothing noticeable. My skin was cool to the touch and paler than the day before. I considered calling my doctor, but the world outside felt distant, almost imaginary. I went back to mopping, noticing that the students stared into the ground as they walked by, or straight through me, as if I didn't exist. The worst part was that I started noticing shadowy figures when I turned quickly. I would see a blip of cloudy darkness when I slowly turned around, and if I rounded a corner too sharply, I'd sometimes see an indistinguishable dark mass somewhere in the distance. Some nights later, I started having nightmares, which was uncharacteristic of my normal, calm sleep. Sometimes in the dreams, I was at work, and one of the little children would look up at me, and its eyes would be dark sockets. Sometimes I would be standing far above the school, looking down into fog and slowly plummet. Sometimes a car would come up the hill just as I checked my mail and veer off the road toward me. As the days went on, the clouds stayed gray and the outside got foggy. Sounds continued to get more muffled, and my thoughts and movements continued slowing. It was as if I was a character in a play and submerged in a lake all at once. My skin was clammy and gray, and nobody noticed my existence. The dark figures kept getting sharper, sometimes appearing just behind me in my dreams, which had become third person. I could start to make out a hooded individual, cloaked in shadow, staring at me. I almost took comfort in it, the only being that could still recognize my existence. I felt cold at all times, but no blankets or warm clothes helped. As the days ran on and the world slowly faded, the only thing that grew clearer was the figure. He was braver now, standing just out of sight, around corners and objects. I knew I should be scared of him, but I could hardly feel anything, let alone fear. Finally, one quiet day as I walked the halls with my mop, it showed itself. I stared into its hollow eyes, willing it to do whatever it was fated to do. It held out its hand, as if for me to shake it. Suddenly, for the first time in weeks, I flashed back to my old life. I saw color again, saw smiles, and outside, saw green foliage and a blue sky. I wasn't ready. I shook my head, as if in recognition. The figure bowed its head. I felt the world go black around me. I woke up, once again in a hospital bed. This time, when the nurse walked in, she was animated and talkative. I was surrounded by little noises, the beeping of my pulse, the chirping of birds, footsteps in the hallway. Once I was released, I saw green and red and orange autumn leaves. And the next morning, I showed up to work again to cheers and waves and welcomes back. I don't know where I was for those few weeks. I thought it was a dream at first, but in my janitor's closet just behind the vacuum cleaner hung a faded, darkened watercolor. A watercolor of a rose against a gray sky, splotchy and wilting. Thank you for listening to Whisperwood Stories. If you enjoyed, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe down below. Do you have a story that you'd like me to read here? Consider commenting or sending it to whisperwoodsubmissions@gmail.com. The story in this video was read with the author's permission. Thank you again for listening, and be sure to check out the original Reddit post. Want to support me? Check the link below where you can leave a tip if you wish. And remember, don't let the shadows get too close. Good night.